AskReddit by Joker's Journal. What is the most incredible human feat of all time? Creating instant worldwide communication. Just over 100 years ago it would take 3 months to send a hi from Australia to your brother in Canada. Right? As a kid in the 80s, having to send letters back and forth with friends when I moved was amazing. It would take days, weeks from across 5 states. Long distance phone calls were astronomical in cost. Now we can just text and connect on social media. Going from the first airplane to space in less than 60 years is quite incredible. My grandfather grew up on a farm in Kansas and remembers the first bicycle and the first automobile in the region. He was astonished and thrilled that he lived to see man on the moon. Air travel as an industry with flights going all around the world constantly every day all the time. Like we're not just flying a few planes here and there, the scale of operations is completely normalized and optimized, requiring constant monitoring, logistics, and coordination with people both in the planes and on the ground, and we treat it like we're taking the bus. The safety track record of modern air travel at scale is the most profoundly difficult thing humans have ever accomplished to know. We have invented and sustained the daily circumnavigation of our planet by a major portion of the population with negligible losses. Coming back from the moon. In 1903 the New York Times said that it would take between 1 and 10 million years for man to develop the technology for flight. 9 weeks later the Wright brothers had their first flight. 66 years later a man walked on the moon. Absolutely wild. I remember when I was at school and we were studying the Industrial Revolution. My teacher said that although we were studying set dates, the Industrial Revolution never really stopped. If anything, the rate of advancement sped up. I guess it changed into the technological revolution and now it's the digital revolution. I think the history of flight shows that rate of advancement so well. He also said that if you took someone from the year 0 to the year 1000 they'd be pretty impressed with what they saw. If you took someone from 1000 to the year 2000 they wouldn't be able to comprehend what they were seeing. The rate of human advancement is crazy. But that advancement of flight, 66 years to put someone on the moon, is still the greatest achievement. The internet. You can talk with person on the other continent with no delay. I dunno, my Australian buddy sometimes messages me and I delay responding just to annoy him. I mean, I've seen enough people talk about the moon landing, which, come on, they did that with computers less advanced than our cell phones. So I'll add the fact that throughout history humans have made pyramids all across the globe even with primitive technology. The Egyptians were also like 100 miles off from figuring out the circumference of the world. For people who couldn't travel the globe nearly as easily, that's some seriously impressive stuff. Less advanced than our cell phones is an understatement. A current gen iPhone has more computing power than the entire world had in 1969. Might get hammered for this one, but I believe the invention of vaccines. It has saved countless amounts of lives. I'm so tired of vaccines being controversial. It used to be hard lefty hippies, then it was hard right preppers. Use your damn noggin. Humans are smart enough to overcome crippling diseases. Be smart enough to participate. Ernest Shackleton and the crew of Endurance surviving being stranded in Antarctica. Endurance became beset, trapped in the ice of the Weddell Sea before it was able to reach Vassal Bay. It drifted northward, held in the pack ice, throughout the Antarctic winter of 1915. Eventually the ice crushed the ship, and it sank, stranding its complement of 28 men on the ice. After months spent in makeshift camps as the ice continued its northwards drift, the party used lifeboats that had been salvaged from the ship to reach the inhospitable, uninhabited Elephant Island. Shackleton and 5 other members of the group then made an 800-mile, 1,300 kilometers, open boat journey in the James Caird, and were able to reach South Georgia. From there, Shackleton was eventually able to arrange a rescue of the men who had remained on Elephant Island and to bring them home without loss of life. Also, when they reached South Georgia they reached the other uninhabited side of South Georgia. So they then had to climb a mountain range, build sledges, and sledged down to where the whaling station was. CMOS transistor. I'd argue that transistor is the most important invention of the 20th century. Without them, we wouldn't have a lot of things, including this website. No one talking about we agreed as a species to stop using CFC and restore ozone layer. I was just reading about the guy who created CFCs. He also was the man who invented leaded gasoline. He later contracted polio and built a contraption with pulleys to help him out of bed, which ended up strangling him to death. Coming up with laws of motion, and as a side gig invented calculus. At 26 yo. The most consequential scientific achievement since Euclid almost 2,000 years earlier, and the most consequential scientific achievement for 300 years after until Dirac Schrödinger Einstein. At 26 years old. And all of that because he was stuck at home during a plague outbreak and he didn't have anything else to do. I learned how to make bread during the COVID lockdown. As impressive as it was, Kepler and Brahe did massive amounts of groundwork. Brahe with extremely precise observations taking all his life, which Kepler could not fit to any circular motion models. The planetary motion laws are not too far from the laws of motion. Refrigeration changed everything. Getting to Costco on Christmas Eve 2022, finding an empty parking spot, walking to the toy section and finding the last item on your kid's wish list, heading to the massive checkout queues, seeing the one at the end opening up and rushing over to be the first person served. In and out in 11 minutes. Christmas miracles do happen, folks. My grandpa went and got coffee and a donut on the 26th of October 2000. Wasn't in a hurry, ate the donut, sipped on the coffee, strolled over to a Kmart that morning, walked to the electronics department and asked, "Do you have any of those PlayStations?" They had a single one left, bought it and walked right out. Still can't believe it. Was an amazing Christmas that year. RIP. The fact Musashi won 60 plus duels, many of which were to the death. Could not imagine surviving so many fights with bladed weapons. Iral plot armor. The only other people who could survive that many fights are fictional characters. Going to the moon has got to be up there. The moon is definitely up there. Johnny Kim. https://en.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/Johnny_Kim () is a Korean American Navy SEAL, doctor, aviator, and NASA astronaut. He is a member of NASA's Artemis team, which aims to land humans on the moon for the first time since 1972. This is that Asian guy who's always better than you. So many people live in fear their mothers find out about Johnny Kim. Large Hadron Collider. Every time I think about that amazing device, there's a new reason to be stunned. From the engineering to the politics to the vast energies and the incredible computing precision required. It's not as blatant as landing on the moon, but far more impressive in my view. Good suggestion. Ronnie O'Sullivan's 5 minutes 20 seconds 147 break. I know this seems like a joke answer to many people, but as someone who played snooker quite a bit, every time I watch the 5 minutes 20 seconds I spend it with my jaw on the floor and constant head scratching. I can't wrap my head around how a single person can have this much foresight, accuracy and confidence to pull that off. The guy that survived the Titanic drunk as shit in the freezing ocean. No idea how I've never thought about being massively drunk during it all. Imagine it would have probably helped sober you up pretty quickly though. I think it's pretty amazing how the people that the movie Alive is based upon managed to survive 72 days in the Andes in freezing temperatures and with barely any food. I have nothing but the utmost respect and honor for these people. How brave and tough they had to be. There's no way I would survive that situation. Their journey out was insane. 38 miles and around a 5,000 foot elevation change, including climbing a 15,000 foot peak, all with zero climbing gear, in 9 days. Professional climbers have attempted what they didn't have been unable to complete it. We were playing a game against an unknown and unforgiving opponent. The stakes were terrible, play well or die, but we didn't even know the ground rules. Nando Parado. Collective achievement? Moon landing for sure. As in one person? The guy who voted against using nuclear weapons on the Soviet submarine, preventing a potential nuclear world and saving literal billions of people in the process. How about the guy the man who saved the world is based on? Stanislav Petrov, leader of an early warning station, and their computers went crazy, showing multiple American launches, even after a double check. When I first moved to LA, I got a blowjob from this girl from Ohio named Lauren. I have no idea how she did what she did, but goddamn. Starts looking up women named Lauren from Ohio. A single person physical feat in one day? The free solo of El Capitan in Yosemite. When I was a geriatric nurse, I saw a guy take a dump that was close to 6 inches in diameter. I believe every nurse in the hospital came to gaze upon its wonder. This is the only post I've upvoted in this entire thread. God bless vaccines. The reason we don't have smallpox, and we've almost wiped out polio. Pretty amazing. My mom's uncle survived polio. It's amazing that in just 2 generations, it's almost wiped off the planet.